Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here, for inviting me to talk with you as part of the Childhood Art Speaker Series. I've watched many other of the presentations from the speakers this year, and I'm really honored to be in such excellent company. Thank you to Chris Schulte, Hayon Park, and Jeffrey Cornwall for being interested in my work, as well as your advocacy for children, children's art, and children's culture. As a mother artist, educator, and researcher, children and their drawings have had a hold on me for the last 10 years. What started as kitchen table research with my three sons expanded to a small mixed-age Montessori classroom, then a larger, diverse public kindergarten, and currently in a second grade classroom in Modena, Italy. As a studio artist with a PhD in early childhood and elementary education, I'm drawn to hybrid spaces, intersections where children, art, and education convene. Children's drawings as artifacts have fascinated researchers for centuries. Studies have been conducted on children's drawing from psychological, anthropological, linguistic, and aesthetic perspectives, studies that catalog and analyze the shapes, forms, subjects, and processes of children's drawings. Early studies of drawing were often based on drawings solicited from children by adults on specific topics and analyzed out of context. Early language and literacy research looked at drawing predominantly as a mode of storytelling to support the acquisition of writing. Many contemporary studies continue to focus predominantly on representational or developmental concerns. A growing body of research in art education and other fields argue that drawing, talk, materials, and culture are infinitely entangled, that children are prolific visual communicators, adept at coordinating a variety of modes of representation to communicate experience. More recent research in elementary grades language and literacy, science and mathematics have found productive correlations between drawing for both understanding and engagement. Despite the potential of this work and the implications for pedagogy, drawing continues to be overlooked as a valid or valuable learning experience in elementary education. Though the Common Core standards in the US include drawing as a recommended activity through grade 2, recommendations for drawing or other arts-based processes in the general curriculum end there. Drawing in the classroom continues to be perceived by classroom teachers and administrators as a time filler, an ancillary activity, or means to another end. Researchers, educators, administrators, and others concerned with elementary education would benefit from a more nuanced understanding and experience with drawing and other material encounters in the classroom. As a mother, artist, educator, and researcher, I approach children's drawings from a new materialist perspective as interacting ecologies of materials, children, teachers, discourses, and culture, but also as vibrant objects, emergent dimensional tangles of graphite, wax, and pigment with which children act and are acted upon. I use drawing as both a verb and a noun. Bennett might use the term assemblage and Barad interaction. These ideas blur the boundaries of subject and object and suggest that phenomena, people, places, things, language, or discourses are not stable entities, but dynamic enactments that emerge through proximity and exchange. Barad suggests that interacting phenomena are constitutive of reality. It is through specific interactions that phenomena come to matter in both senses of the word. Before vibrant matter and thing power, Bennett shared the theory of enchantment, an accounting of the moments in which time is lost and the body or self-awareness dissolves in its attention to something else. Enchantment entails a state of wonder, the temporary suspension of chronological time and bodily movement. To be enchanted, then, is to participate in a momentarily immobilizing encounter. It is to be transfixed, spellbound. What I find compelling about the concept of enchantment is that it seems both minute and monumental at the same time. To be enchanted is to be struck and shaken by the extraordinary that lives amid the familiar and the everyday. The concept of enchantment suits phenomena I've observed in and out of classrooms where children are engaged in drawings. The moments they appear lost in thought, absorbed in their work, talking to and with the materials on the page. Bennett connects enchantment to an ethical perspective and potential for conjuring alternative narratives. She argues that enchantment produces joy and joy propels ethics. Bennett argues that enchantment can be both discovered and cultivated, something that we encounter that hits us, but it also is a comportment that can be fostered through deliberate strategies. One of those strategies might be to give greater expression to the sense of play, another to hone sensory receptivity to the marvelous specificity of things. Bennett warns that enchantment is not necessarily always positive. Fear or discomfort can also be elements of an enchanted state. To be enchanted is to be both charmed and disturbed. Charmed by a fascinating repetition of sounds or images, disturbed to find that, although your sense perception has become intensified, your background sense of order has flown out the door. I use Bennett's theory of enchantment to characterize children's drawings as an ethical occupation, a stance of presumptive generosity, of rendering oneself more open to the surprise of other selves and bodies and more willing and able to enter into productive assemblages with them. I share microanalyses of drawing events with children in a kindergarten classroom in order to illustrate ways in which drawing provokes crossings, mobility, and moments of wonder and joy, which can propel ethics and ethical relations with the world. Challenging assumptions about children's drawings as developmental or universal, I argue that in drawings, children engage in deliberate, ethical, and sociocultural practice. In sharing the marvelous specificity of children's drawings events, I make a case for drawing as a counter narrative needed for an ethical, enchanted education. In a year-long inquiry into drawing in kindergarten, Miss Walcott, a veteran kindergarten teacher, and 21 children made space for me in their busy classroom. I followed their daily writer's workshop, a 45 to 50-minute block in which children were asked to write and illustrate narratives relevant to their own interests. Informed by Calkins' units of study and the Ohio State University's Literacy Collaborative, the writer's workshop had been a part of their early grades curriculum for almost 10 years. Drawing from classroom ethnographies in elementary education, I engaged as a participant observer in classroom life, wrote and sketched field notes and video recorded drawing events and short informal interviews. As Knight suggests, communication, verbal or otherwise, between adults and children always holds the potential to complicate, and introducing research into a classroom space alters the trajectory of that space. She argues, however, that drawings offer departures, convergences, and revisitations for thinking, enacting, creating, activities that significantly extend on the systematic acts of coding, sorting, and classifying. Video as a medium both affords and confines phenomena that I have come to terms with what it can and cannot do. For me, video has the potential to record intersections, the moments when things collide, and watching and rewatching allows for more multifaceted interpretations. As Barad notes, engaging with the world requires multiple methods. Images or representations are not snapshots or depictions of what awaits us, but rather condensations or traces of multiple practices of engagement. In Miss Walcott's classroom, enchantment emerged in a variety of ways. Children working slowly or carefully, focused attention in a crowded classroom, head down close to the drawing surface, standing up, leaning in, talking to drawings, expressing curiosity, surprise, or satisfaction, and forgetting one's body, mouth open, tongue out, etc., among others. Drawings tell the story of children's lived curriculum, undercurrents operating within the classroom, shaped by daily interactions and events, experienced differently by each individual. Aoki points out that teachers who value the lived curriculum of children value stories, anecdotes, and narratives that embody the lived dimension of curriculum life. In what follows, I share the interactions of children and drawings. In this work, I hope to extend perceptions of children's drawings beyond indicators of development, aesthetics, or representational skill into productive agentic practices with significant pedagogical implications. So this is Ryan. Ryan, a 35-year-old in jeans and red shirt, sits at a grouping of desks along the wall, away from the chatter and busy hum of the rest of the room. The L-shaped group, known in the classroom as the Technology Center, includes a monolithic CD player, an open laptop, several pairs of headphones, and a well-used Ziploc bag of crayons. In addition to offering multimedia resources, the Tangle of AV equipment functions as an accommodation for children who struggle with focus in class. Ryan is one of several children who are asked to move seats during writer's workshop. Like most children in the class, Ryan draws first during writing time. He begins with a large orange sun in the right-hand corner, followed by a tall, long-haired figure in the center. He adds another figure with a curly tendril of hair and a hat. He pauses a moment, shakes a quick fist at the drawing, and moves on to draw two smaller figures. Here, Ryan stops, stands up, puts on a nearby pair of headphones, adjusts them, and sits back down. At 5, he understands what he needs to help him focus. He continues drawing, adding a blue line for the sky, a green line for grass, the spiky brown trunk of a tree, a green curly leafy top, and red discs like a halo around the perimeter. Miss Walcott, making her one-on-one rounds, stops to check on him. Okay, you got a great picture, so let's go ahead and get some words on there. Can you tell me what your story's about? Ryan answers immediately. Me and my mom and my sister and my grandma. We are picking some apples off an apple tree. That's the apple tree. He points to the green top with the tip of his crayon. Miss Walcott almost never has issues with getting her students to draw. It's the writing that's tricky. Very good. You're going to write that. That's your first thing. Remember how we talked about something else happened? So you're picking apples. That's your first event. So what's your second thing? After you pick the apples, what do you do then? Ryan thinks for a moment. We bring him inside. Miss Walcott nods her head. She points where each word should go with her finger. We are picking apples on an apple tree. Ryan watches her finger move across the writing lines. He scratches his head and replies quickly, Can I write my house? Miss Walcott's face is off camera, so I can't see her expression in the video, but her tone tells the story of a teacher who is torn between the competing desires of children and curriculum. Yes, very, very quickly. We have about 10 more minutes, so do your house and then go ahead and get started on your words. Ryan demonstrates the focus, motivation, and interest of someone enchanted with his drawing, despite being designated as someone who struggles with focus. When prompted to move on, he expresses his priorities. Can I write my house? Ryan's language suggests that there is no distinction between drawing and writing, that it is an entangled process of telling the story. Ryan's interest clashes with Miss Walcott's priority of words on the journal page, the archive of his learning she might share with parents, administrators, etc. In this case, are Ryan's interests auxiliary or unimportant? Pyrie suggests that enchantment deepens engagement with the world. Here is where love comes to the picture. When you are deeply involved with something, you tend to care for it too. This understanding places value to spending time with ordinary, everyday things and spaces. After Miss Walcott's check-in, Ryan continues his drawing. He adds a detailed house with window, 5 puffy blue clouds, and a purple flower. A variety of crayons have collected on the desk and rolled down onto the floor. Ryan bends down to pick them up and lines them up neatly in his left hand. A red, a black, a green, and a purple. He holds his hand below desk level, out of range of Miss Walcott's view. He adds a yellow, a purple, and a brown to the row, then an orange, a green, and a yellow. He pats them so they line up neatly and adds a red. He flips the yellow and the blue so that all the tips are at the top and pats them all down. He holds them neatly organized and arranged in his hand for 1, maybe 2 seconds, completely focused and still. He pats the composition one last time, then neatly slides them onto the desktop and back into the crayon bag. How did Ryan experience these moments? It seemed, as he was enchanted by the shape, color, order, and relationships of the materials in his hand, that the familiar had become unfamiliar. Each time I watch the video, I get the sense that time stopped for him in those moments, that his world had become the objects in his hands. I would argue that in rolling off the table, the variety of their colors contrasted with the sameness of the neat, slim objects in his hands. The crayons called to Ryan, and in picking them up, ordering them, lining them up, patting them, Ryan, the crayons, the drawing, the pressure to write, and the clash between child driven and teacher driven curriculum mingled. I can't confirm what emerged for Ryan, but it's possible the experience generated a respite from pressures in the classroom, a scientific interest in materials, systems of organization, order, and technology, or the simple pleasure of holding something for oneself, however briefly, or all of these at the same time. For me, the event stands out as a marker of the many experiences in which I observed children's material engagement holding sway. The effective power in these moments gets lost easily in a busy classroom. Salma balances on the edge of her chair, already focused, ready to begin. She holds her pencil close to the tip and writes her name at the top of a blank journal page. Head down, just inches from the paper, Salma draws rapidly. She begins with a jagged green line for grass and a yellow circle in the upper left corner for sun. She draws her first figure, herself with long dark hair. She stands up to get closer for important details like the face and a flowered headband. To draw the shoes and laces, she switches to pencil and half stands to get a better angle. Her face is a crayon's length from the paper. She leans in, lifts off the seat as if she could enter the drawing at any moment. She is both thoughtful and speedy, pausing to think about elements, making decisions, and laying marks down without hesitation or fear. She switches to clouds, tracing the edges slowly, carefully, as if she's entranced. She moves to other figures and then speech bubbles. She draws the outline of the first bubble with black crayon and writes, "Be careful," in pencil. As she writes, her head is tilted, almost laying on the surface of the page. She artfully adds the second text bubble. "I'm okay, ow." Unlike many of her peers, so once Salma has all the major figures accounted for, she deliberately stops drawing to write her story. She has more writing lines in her journal than others at this point in the year. She writes quickly and consistently, stopping briefly to look up resource words or to check on the progress of her table mates. She is focused, but a different kind of focus, her body wiggling in her chair as if she's eager to get somewhere. She reads the story to herself one last time, tapping the words with the tip of her pencil. As a final touch, she adds a drop of vivid red blood to Alicia's knee. There is much more happening in the drawing than Salma writes about. I ask her to tell me about her drawing. She points to each element as she tells me. This is somebody's house, and the ball flew in the window. This is a balloon I got to give to Alicia to make her better. And this, she points to a fourth figure on the right-hand side of the picture, the figure of a smaller girl climbing a ladder. She wanted to play. She wanted to hear what we were saying so she could do it and not get hurt. Did Salma and Alicia, her table mate, go to the park together, or is this fiction? Did the events in this story happen as Salma has drawn, or is she playing with reality in her drawings like she would a toy? There are no adults in the picture or story. These are clearly elements she knows well and in which she engages in a confident rendering. The play comes in how she weaves them together in her own telling. Her posture, focus, time spent, all pointing to an enchanted articulation of her experience. Bennett highlights the enchanting nature of animating inanimate objects. Animations can delight, perhaps for the same sensory reasons that a kaleidoscope does. Metamorphoses of shape, color, size, and pattern caption the imagination. If things that we had previously considered to be but the passive context for our activity are themselves mobile, vital matter, then the world becomes so much more interesting. As Salma interacts with drawings animate her narrative. As she enlivens and innovates the details of a past event, the drawings work with her to invent new details, create new dialogue, both written and verbal. Salma adds the blood as the story unfolds. The articulations happen in real time and anything could happen. Salma's drawings suggest an ethical sensibility toward Alicia, the playground, someone's house, and the younger children. As the drawing develops, Salma exercises her care for Alicia and the younger girl. She warns, "Be careful." Puts a bandage on her wound and gives her a balloon to make her better. Some of these phenomenon are represented in the drawing, but much would be lost without acknowledging the writing and talk that goes hand in hand with children's drawing. Drawings have the potential for worlds within worlds. When confined to a desk, within a classroom, within a school, drawing allows spaces for children to move, to transmutate, and to play. What would education look like if we made room for and valued such spaces? If enchantment creates spaces for children to love and care for the world, what are we doing when we put pressure on those spaces or squeeze them out altogether? Lionel picks up the brown crayon. He adds color to the fur of a towering creature, addresses it in low tones: Chewbacca, Chewbacca, Chewbacca. Lionel's drawings often focus on battle scenes and incorporate careful illustrations of gear, weaponry, or vehicles. In this drawing, Chewbacca fights a stormtrooper while an Empire ship hovers on the horizon. Lionel draws the details in pencil first, then adds color to Chewbacca's blaster, one stroke at a time. He smiles and picks up the red crayon. At this point in the year, the crayon has been well used, and all that's left is a stub. Holding the crayon at its tip, he pushes it in short bursts across the page. Pachoo, pachoo, pachoo. When the red marks reach the stormtrooper on the other side, they make an impact sound. In this drawing, Lionel distills an epic battle between the Rebel Alliance and the Empire, layering details from film and popular graphic images as well as inventing his own. But it is the slip of wax on paper and the color red that moves the drawing. The sense of something unfolding in the moment is visceral in Lionel's voice, his body, in the movement of marks on the page. Miss Walcott acknowledges the depth of these exchanges. Chewbacca is real to him. In this context, I mean, that character just reached out and grabbed him. In this case, the pencil, paper, and crayon produces an opportunity for Lionel to engage in Star Wars, what Wilson and Wilson call world making, an imaginative event that incorporates popular cultural narratives, materials, the body, and the imagination. Lionel talks to and with the drawing, making noises, sound effects, naming images, punctuating action. I've observed children talking to, smiling at, and touching or patting their drawings. When children talk to drawings, do drawings talk back? Kayla smiles at her drawing. What began as a chameleon story from the day's reading lesson has morphed into a friendship story featuring Kayla, her two table mates, Allie and Surrey. Kayla looks up at Surrey. What? I forgot to draw you? Can you believe that? Kayla picks up her crayons with an exaggerated flair. And now the pink heart, pink and purple. She says this to the paper itself as if she's informing it of her intentions. Across the table, Allie, finished with her drawing, is watching intently. Kayla's drawing space is crowded with orange and black chameleons, a yellow sun, a swatch of blue sky, green grass, black weeds, pink and purple clouds, assorted flowers, and figures with ruffled dresses and high heels. Allie points to a blank space on the picture plane. Can you put a heart right there so we love each other? Kayla brushes wisps of hair from her face and continues drawing. We do love each other already, Allie. Now I'm going to draw Surrey. Kayla is deep into what's happening on the picture plane. She comments on its progress as it happens in real time, as if the elements of the drawing are behaving in unexpected ways. Wow, we're stepping on the weeds. Allie continues to examine Kayla's drawing as it unfolds. We have the same dresses because we're friends? Kayla answers without looking up, touches the figures with her forefinger. Uh-huh, that's me, that's you. Allie stares, looks up. We have to hold hands. Kayla stops drawing. Her figure is on the left-hand side of the picture plane. There is no way that she and Allie, all the way over on the right, could hold hands. No, we don't. Allie looks worried, but then compromises. Okay, then I'm holding Surrey's hand. In this event, drawing engages a table of children in multiple ways. The group co-constructs a complex narrative about love and friendship that evolves to include hearts, hands, friendship, and dresses. The drawing operates as a real-time space for children to play and interact with ideas about love and friendship and what that looks like between their bodies and on the page. They push out from the boundaries of the drawing space to address some very big ideas. The pink and purple crayons drive the drawing as the drawing space constricts it. Kayla's unfolding narrative, Allie's questions, and Suri's excitement keep the momentum going. Like Lionel, Kayla talks to the drawing in the present tense as if she and it are in this together. The confidence and speed with which she lays down color marks and images suggests that the drawing is subject to her will, but there are moments when I see hints of the drawing leading her in other directions. Wow, we're stepping on the weeds. Kayla's expression suggests that the drawing has manifested its own reality, an unanticipated space in which she and her co-conspirators find themselves stepping on the weeds. While I'm unclear as to why stepping on the weeds might be surprising, maybe it's because the weeds are where one should not step or where one would be uncomfortable in high heels, it is clear that this assemblage provokes an adventure or launches a desire beyond what it permits us to see. Kayla's drawings animate and are animated by Kayla, her peers, materials, and girlhood discourses, an unanticipated collusion of drawings, dresses, love, and weeds. Mateo stares at his drawing. Vivid, dense, filled with shapes and color. There's not much room to add more. As he contemplates, he's distracted by Jennifer on his left, tapping a thick green crayon at the top of her paper. It's unclear whether she's tapping in order to make the marks on her drawing or because she likes the sound and feel of the hard crayon hitting the hard surface. The tapping makes an impact on Mateo. He watches her a moment, then picks up a crayon and taps his paper. 1, 2, 3 fast taps. But the tapping does not work the same way for him. Perhaps the marks are not dark enough or too small. He abandons the tapping and draws thick, soft curves with the black crayon, fills them in with a vibrant blue, dense raindrops falling from clouds. He stares at them for a moment, then adds text at the bottom. It rained. In this event, Mateo responds to a material experience, incorporates it into his drawing, and weaves it into his narrative. The moment speaks to the contagion of drawing, ways that rainbows, hearts, stars, and skulls sprout in the margins and scraps of paper in backpacks, the texts of childhood, what Paul terms ephemera. The sound and feel of the impact of crayon on paper on table works one way for Jennifer, another for Mateo. Jennifer's tapping has no visible relationship to her narrative, a work in progress involving her table mate. In Mateo's drawing, the material experience of tapping enacts an image of rain. In his narrative, me and my dad working a project, rain adds a conflict or a climax, a trajectory to the story that was either not present prior to Jennifer's taps or not yet visualized. In either case, drawings, the materials, and Jennifer work with and through Mateo to produce something else. In the wake of a global pandemic, school shootings, book bans, divisive concepts, a teacher shortage, and a vitriolic political climate, elementary education, schools, children, teachers, and families continue to struggle to find their footing. The urge to adopt curricula or policies to fix the numerous crises across public school settings feels urgent. As a teacher, educator, and researcher, I've been searching for a sense of equilibrium and direction myself. The No Child Left Behind Act, Race to the Top, state mandated tests and performance evaluations, and other federal, state policies and initiatives focused on standards and assessment-based curricula have narrowed spaces for creative, accessible, engaging pedagogies. Pyrie argues that educational spaces have become so highly structured that they are prohibitive to experimentation or innovation. With a renewed focus on the science of reading and return to skills-based approaches to literacy in the US and other countries, practice-based and critical sociocultural research perspectives have been left out of policy and the discussion. Recent concerns with Calkins units of study include issues of equity and accessibility, as well as disagreements over strategies for teaching reading. I'm not necessarily advocating for that specific model. I will say that from an elementary education perspective, drawing in Writer's Workshop has been one of the more generative, innovative, and engaging spaces I have observed for both children and their teachers. In the larger context of elementary education, Hall notes that one of the issues with drawings in school curriculum is that drawing gets tangled up in the preconceptions of literacy, creativity, and art. She argues that graphic activity needs to be recognized as something that expands boundaries beyond discipline. She points out that large scale surveys of student, teacher, and parent attitudes about drawing in England's national curriculum found that over 80% of teachers had problems with drawing in class and that at least one-third of them saw their own skills as a barrier. As well, studies with teacher preparation programs in the US found that pre-service teachers lack applicable arts experiences in planning, implementation, and support from mentor teachers. It is clear that public education in the US inhibits drawing and other creative pedagogies at an institutional level and continues to train teachers to do so. As teacher and teacher educators push back against the rising tide of standardization and commodification in schools, what otherwise can we imagine for our children? What would elementary education look like if materials and art-rich encounters were enacted and supported in classrooms? Pedagogies of engagement rather than those driven by prescribed agendas and curriculum. In dialogue with researchers and teachers on culturally relevant and responsive pedagogies, Paris and Aline call for a culturally sustainable pedagogy that includes valuing cultural fluency and multimodal methods of communication. Culturally sustaining pedagogies challenge language centric classroom practices and advocate for the arts as vehicles for engagement, equity, and inclusion. In CSP, schools are reimagined as sites where diverse, heterogeneous practices are not only valued but sustained. It is here where researchers and educators across fields can find a productive meeting ground. What if we value drawings as interactions that provoke experimentation, excitement, ethics, and pleasure for children in their daily learning encounters? And by value, I also mean participate, evaluate, and reflect critically on the processes and products that drawings afford. What if, as an alternative or in addition to standardized assessments, we committed to documenting and supporting the productive nature of children's drawings, as I've attempted to do in this presentation? What culturally sustainable modes of resistance might emerge if we, as adults and drivers of curriculum, disrupted our assumptions about drawing and drawings and open spaces in our curriculum for drawings as pedagogy? Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. So we have some time for questions. If you'd like to submit a question, please use the Q&A function to do so.